We want to flag for you tonight what may be an emerging genocide. The Islamic Army, known as ISIS, has seized vast territory in Syria and Iraq. And over the weekend, ISIS stormed more towns in northern Iraq. Now, have a look at what they're doing to the minority Shiite Muslims. These are Shiite mosques and shrines. In this video, Shiite men are herded together and executed in mass graves. Here, Shiite men are shot in the head one by one and dumped into a river. The slaughter is spreading. The Iraqi government is battling ISIS with limited success.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Noraniani. So I'm going to talk about the introduction of ISIS. The United States-led invasion of Iraq in 2003 have set a foundation for formation that created Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, the ISIS group. It is also known as Al-Qaeda. It was created by Tanzim Qaedat al-Jihad fi Bilad al-Rafidain. The group also known as the Islamic State of Iraq and its Levant. The word Levant came from its original name, Asham, means overlap geographical area that consists of Palestine, Israel, Cyprus, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey. The word Levant seems to have more connection with the group as they were included with the affected area and their targets. The primary goal of ISIS is to establish an Islamic caliphate in Iraq and Syria and extend its influence globally through a Salafi jihadist movement. The group operates with three principles, which to recruit for its caliphate, launching bloody attacks on civilians, and functioning as military organization outside the Middle East. It was led by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, which a Sunni belief. He was once held as a prisoner from 2005 to 2009. ISIS financed itself through the acquisition of natural resources and organized crime such as bank robberies due to its territorial control in Syria and Iraq. The group's strategy involved in launching unexpected attacks to cause fear and casualties. It's efficiently deploying foreign volunteers as suicide bombers. The United States is already under threat from ISIS. It's viewing the group as worrisome for erasing the state borders and causing the ethnic and religious cleansing. ISIS considers itself as a jihadist group which opposes with the interest, influence, and presence of the United States and Western states in the Middle East and in the Arab world. The group action began in 2003, which driven by the anger toward Saddam Hussein treatment and subsequent action by the United States. ISIS claimed to create a new group with rival affiliates of Al-Qaeda active in Syria. The group of size is estimated between 7,000 to 10,000 members. In 2014, ISIS controlled a major 20 cities in Iraq and providing services like healthcare, education, and the other services like other states. The citizens in control area were compelled to follow ISIS rules with disobedience, leading to their disobedience leading to a severe punishment, including death.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Siti Nusraya binti Shamsuddin. So I want to explain the objective of ISIS. So the first one is develop Islamic State and expand Muslim to support its belief. So, for gaining support for its extremist ideologies, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria tried to establish an Islamic state and increase its influence among Muslims. ISIS intended to take advantage of severe tactics and significant acts of violence to instill fear and promote a sense of power and fearlessness in order to attract supporters of their cause. ISIS' main strategy was closely linked to increasing the number of Muslims who believe its ideologies. ISIS said that creating an Islamic state was also a religious and geopolitical responsibility. Next, these extremist groups take advantage of education as a method of spreading their propaganda against young people. Next, according to Muhammad Noor 2015, these ISIS-led extremist activities target Islamic Studies Center and Tahfiz institution with the intention of converting them into places for the propagation of dakwah. The way they utilize the term jihad in the learning component is not in line with the real meaning of the concept. So, this may result in accidentally violence and abuse towards civilians. Next, the second objective are establish a caliphate in Iraq and the Levant by the extreme interpretation of Islamic law. ISIS had a strong desire to create a caliphate by Islamic doctrine. In addition, they considered the creation of caliphate was a combination of a religious obligation and a requirement for enforcing their interpretation of Sharia law. ISIS focus on Iraq and the Levant was influenced by geopolitical and historical factors. In the Islamic world, the Levant, which includes nations like Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, and Palestine, is very important both historically and religiously. The area has served as the center of various power structures. Therefore, ISIS saw significance in the idea of re-establishing a caliphate in this strategic region. They applied severe punishment like public punishment and execution according to their twisted interpretation of Islamic principle. It involved combination of religious ideology, historical symbolism, geopolitical concern, and the exploitation of political instability led to ISIS' goal of establishing a caliphate in Iraq and the Levant. Lastly, the group's continuous achieving of a declared caliphate was driven its extremist interpretation of Sunni Islam and its goal to alter the political landscape of the region. Next, the last objective are to consolidate more territory, the areas that already controls and capture territory in Syria and Iraq. So, ISIS has been able to control other important strategic locations such as Palmyra in Syria, Homs region, and the city of Ramadi in Iraq's Anbar province. Attacking Shia civilians has been one of the key strategies for achieving goals of fostering a religious conflict between Sunnis and Shias in Iraq. According to Friedland 2015, it also served as a way of provoking attacks from Shia army group, which is meant to push Sunnis towards ISIS. ISIS also managed to obtain important assets according to its territorial control, which helped the terrorist group expand and maintain its armed force. ISIS took control of economic assets including oil fields by conquering cities and resource-rich regions. According to Andrew 2014, having a well-trained and equipped army helped ISIS to achieve its goal of gaining control over territory. With a strong military force at their command, this group was able to begin offensive, take control of new areas, and counter violence. ISIS gained the loyalty and supports of numerous groups by offering military, economic, and humanitarian assistance. In addition, this relationship gave ISIS to extra money, labor and knowledge of the regions, which improved its ability to govern and conduct military operations.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Intezati binti Idris, and I would like to discuss about the implications of ISIS globally. The first one is global security threat. As per a recent research survey, there are two top dangers to national security that people worldwide perceive are ISIS and climate change. There are 8 potential risks were inquired about in the study. There are concerns differ by country and location. ISIS stand out as the most often mentioned security threats among the 38 nations surveyed. ISIS is rated as the biggest threat in 18 countries, as the majority of which are in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and the United States. According to the Islamic militant group, there have been terrorist attacks in several of these countries that have left people dead. The second implication is displacement of population. Waves of migration from war, armed conflict, and ethnic violence in Iraq has been caused by the 1980 Iran-Iraq War, the 2003 US war on Iraq, and internal armed conflicts. The most recent war with ISIS resulted in the internal displacement of about 6 million people between 2014 and 2017. The relocation started in early 2014, but it peaked in the second half of the year after ISIS took control of a significant portion of Iraq. The Iraqi government launched military operations against the opposition in an effort to recapture the land that they has lost. Iraqis who have been forced from their homes and have been in the queue of humanitarian assistance since 2014. The suffering ended by Iraq's internally displaced youngsters indicates that their exposure to warfare has not restored their health. The chances and education that are lost to children as a result of the conflicts in Iraq are among the worst consequences. The focus has been on children who were internally displaced and residing in territory controlled by ISIS. They are now experiencing additional psychosocial problems as a result of their relocation. The last implication is the creation of fear and instability. ISIS, also known as the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, has terrorized and executed large numbers of people, imposing strict and extreme interpretation of Islamic law. These actions have created instability and fear across the globe. Because to the group's actions, there has been a significant deal of unease and instability in areas that are not directly under their control, as well as security concerns, refugee problems, and effects on the international relation. The group's activities have generated terror and instability not just in the Middle East, but also on other continents. These acts have been facilitated by the organization's recruitment efforts, global propaganda, and promotion of lone wolf attacks by sympathizers in many countries. Because of ISIS activities and presence, social and economic structures have disintegrated and terror, which caused instability, have spread throughout the areas it governs. People have always been afraid that they will be harassed or violently attacked. ISIS has targeted religious minorities such as Christians and Yazidis, and they have been subjected to violence, forced conversions, and relocation. This has reduced the religious diversity in the affected regions.
Hi, my name is Nurufati Waida binti Abdul Karim. I want to present about the recommendation on how to solve the implications made by ISIS. First, enhancing intelligence sharing and cooperation among countries. Enhancing intelligence sharing and cooperation among countries refers to the process of improving and strengthening the collaboration between national intelligence agencies and security organizations of different nations. This involves the exchange of information, data, and expertise related to potential threats, risks, and criminal activities, with the overarching goal of bolstering collective efforts to address common security challenges. Enhancing intelligence sharing and cooperation among affected or involved countries is crucial to effectively counteract and neutralize the activities of ISIS. It allows for a proactive approach in identifying and preventing potential terrorist plots before they can be executed. For example, the sharing of intelligence between European countries has been instrumental in preventing several unplanned attacks by uncovering intricate networks and operational details. By pooling their resources and knowledge, these nations create a collective defense mechanism that is more resilient and adaptive in the face of evolving security threats. Second, increasing humanitarian aid. Humanitarian aid is material or logistical assistance provided for humanitarian purposes, typically in response to humanitarian crises, including natural disasters and man-made disasters. According to the United Nations, more than 10 million people have been affected by the conflict, and over 3 million people have been internally displaced within Iraq. Many of these displaced populations face dire humanitarian conditions and require urgent assistance to meet their basic needs and rights. Moreover, the increasing humanitarian aid is crucial to providing support for displaced population affected by ISIS, as it can help alleviate their suffering, improve their well-being, and foster their recovery and reintegration. Increasing humanitarian aid hold the key to ameliorating the suffering of displaced populations by addressing immediate needs such as food, water, shelter, and healthcare. Aid organizations can significantly improve living conditions. This not only reduces the immediate impact of displacement, but also restores dignity to those affected. For instance, a critical contribution of 5,000 million by Saudi Arabia to the humanitarian response in Iraq that represents a significant and commendable effort towards addressing the urgent needs of a nation grappling with the aftermath of conflict and displacement. Third, refrain from hurting religious belief. Refraining from hurting religious belief refers to the conscious and deliberate act of avoiding actions, expressions, or behaviors that cause offense, disrespect, or harm to the deeply held belief and practice of individuals adhering to a particular religion. This concept emphasizes the importance of showing sensitivity, tolerance, and respect toward the diverse religious convictions held by individuals or communities. It involves recognizing the significance of religious faith to individuals and promoting an environment that fosters understanding, inclusivity, and peaceful coexistence among people of different religious backgrounds. ISIS claims to represent the true Islam and to establish a global caliphate based on the Sharia or Islamic law. However, ISIS interpretation and application of the Sharia are widely denounced and contested by the majority of Muslims, who regard ISIS as a deviant and criminal group that violates the core principles and values of Islam. Therefore, refraining from hurting religious beliefs, especially those held by Muslims, is not only an ethical imperative, but also a strategic approach to counter the implication of ISIS. By understanding the manipulation of religious narrative and fostering respect for diverse belief, society can undermine the extremist ideologies propagated by groups like ISIS. Moreover, respecting religious belief, on the other hand, through engagement in dialogue, cooperation, and education, can counteract the extremist ideology of groups like ISIS. By fostering mutual understanding between different religious groups, communities can build trust and promote peaceful coexistence. As an example, Say No to Religious Hatred program in response to rising tensions and incidents of discrimination in society. The program aims to build bridge between different religious groups, dispel stereotypes, and address the root causes of extremism.
So hi and assalamualaikum. My name is Nurhana binti Muhammad Alias, and I will be explaining about the summarization of this article journal that I found on Google Scholar. So based on the journal article above, it explained on the ISIS genocide against the Yazidis and mass violence that was done by the ISIS group in the Middle East. This journal article was published online on the 30 October 2019 and was written by the author, namely Vikan Chatarian. This case study about the Yazidis is important because it explains on how the Middle East is often being ignored, marginalized in different perspectives. So the timeline on the attacks of ISIS towards the Yazidis were explained in this article journal, where it stated that in the early hours of 5 June 2014, ISIS fighters attacked the Mosul and successfully took control of the second biggest city of Iraq, where the assailants were a total of 800 fighters, and the Iraqi army were estimated a total of 30,000 soldiers, but at the end of the day, they crumbled and lost to the ISIS fighters. On June 9, they continued their attack to Tikrit, the birthplace of the former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein, which after 2 days, they managed to take full control of it. In the early January 2014, the Islamist militants had succeeded in taking over the cities in the western Anbar province, including the Ramadi and the Fallujah. So now I'll be explaining about the destruction made by the ISIS through the violence against the Yazidis. ISIS has educated men and boys older than 12 years old, kidnapped women and girls and reduced them to slavery, kidnapped boys younger than 10 to 12 years old, converted them to Islam and trained them to become the future of ISIS fighters, and destroyed the Yazidi religious and cultural monuments. Besides that, on the 3rd August 2014, the ISIS fighters entered the Solah, which is a village to the east of Sinjar city, and took out 30 people and forced few men and boys to walk to a nearby riverbed and told them to kneel and shot them at the back, which was a brutal movement made by the ISIS. Besides that, on August 11, the largest mass killing of Yazidi men took place in the village of Kocho, where over 700 men and boys were executed, and an UN report stated that the mass killing took place after Yazidi men who refused to convert to Islam. So the ISIS fighters killed the Yazidi men who refused to convert to Islam. The UN report also stated that over 3,200 Yazidi women were still held captive by ISIS, and some women were sold as slaves, while young boys were trained to become ISIS fighters. Boys and adult men were forced into a rigid program that focused on Arabic lessons, courses in Islamic studies, and harsh military training. They were also forced repeatedly to watch videos of beheadings, train as fighters. The mass violence exerted by ISIS on the Yazidi population can be categorized as a pattern, where they always educate men, kidnapping women and girls, converting young boys and others. Most of the parliaments from other countries stated that the pattern committed can be categorized as an act of genocide. The former President Barack Obama also stated that ISIS crimes against the Yazidis as a potential act of genocide. So lastly, the argument made by the author on this article journal is that the mass violence made by ISIS against Yazidis contain two elements of continuity and break within the history of the Middle East. The differences between the genocide committed by the Ottomans and the genocide committed by ISIS against the Yazidis is that the Ottomans target the Christian communities, while ISIS gave a choice to Christian communities to convert to Islam or to accept the status of dhimmitude by paying a special tax or leave their homes. That's it from my part. Thank you so much.
In conclusion, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria is known to be a terrorist group in country's perspective, as the United Nations claim. This view gained by the their group action that attack and invades the area that they want and control them. However, they indeed taking of the societies in that particular area by they indeed taking care of the societies in that particular area by providing services related like the other states. Their rules are strict and must be followed by the society and governs. Use military power or force power. The objective of the organization is to develop Islamic State and expand Muslim to support its belief and establish caliphate in Iraq and Levant by the extreme interpretation of Islamic law and consolidate more territories, the areas that are already in control, and capture territory in Syria and Iraq. Globally, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, the ISIS, have been seen as global security threat, displacement of population, and creation of fear and instability due to their action done by invaded the other territorial area and the way it's performed its organization control. There is some improvement that can be made by the ISIS by enhancing the intelligence and sharing cooperation, increasing humanitarian aids, and refrain from religious belief. It is believed the intention of the creation of an organization are pure and kind, but when it's involved with the individual life, the stability of its nation, and freedom of citizens, they must have a toleration and appreciation each individual life as precious and enhance the guide to a better and prosperous life that will benefit to each individual in that particular area. Therefore, the cooperation between countries in battling the issues is crucial in slowing down and avoiding war from happening. The negotiation and confrontation with a strict consequences must exist in handling opposite extremists is a must to show the humanity inside, but not to ignorant and selfish side, with the intention to protecting nation and a country. Therefore, a society will have a prosperous and good governance with tolerance between citizens and governance and creating a better future for the next generation.